When I was a kid, I collected Monopoly pieces. Well, specifically I collected small pewter figurines, but I used them as Monopoly pieces. And they got a lot of use too, because Monopoly was my favorite board game. Now for a lot of people, Monopoly is just a 4-hour exercise of torture that only really ends when everyone playing quits and vows never to do it again. But for me, Monopoly was a joy. And I think the main reason for that was because, well, it was better than the other board games I had. So for a while, I thought that that was just how board games worked. You know, the best of the best was still not really that great, and most people didn't even want to play it. But I was wrong. A handful of years ago, some friends introduced me to life beyond what is called American-style board games. They're the ones that typically have you roll a pair of d6s and then wait for luck to determine how long the game is going to last. But interestingly, the more I moved away from the American-style games, the more I figured out that most people were just like I was. They had no knowledge of what lied beyond the borders of Candyland and Chutes and Ladders. So today, I want to walk you through a few of my favorite non-Monopoly style board games, and I think that you'll enjoy them if you check them out. So let's start small. This is Point Salad. Point Salad is the game my wife and I take with us practically everywhere we go. Why? Well, for starters, it's nice and portable. But more importantly, Point Salad is a game anyone can learn. And it only takes about 15 minutes to play, which means you can play like 20 times while other people are still trying to get through their one game of Monopoly. If you're new to good board games, check out Point Salad. I've yet to find anyone who didn't enjoy playing it. Next up comes a pair of games, both of which I love for one reason. They let you roll 1,000,000 billion dice. Now, I know what you're saying. I was just complaining about how Monopoly relied too heavily on dice. Well, look, I'm not against rolling dice. In fact, it's one of my favorite activities in the whole world. I could just sit around and roll dice like all day. One critical fail. Cubitos is a racing game where you buy more and more dice to help you get around a path to the finish line. But it isn't just roll and count the numbers. Each die goes with a card which has certain powers to use while you race. Plus, you can swap the cards between races, so no two playthroughs feel exactly the same. Cubitos is one of my new favorites. Roll for the Galaxy, on the other hand, is one of my old favorites. Here you roll dice in secret, behind a little screen, and then reveal to see which player is going to do what as they explore space and colonize planets. If that sounds complicated, well, I'm not going to lie, it kind of is, especially when you're first starting out. But Roll for the Galaxy is still an amazing experience, and one I go back to again and again. I definitely recommend owning it, or, barring that, borrowing it from a friend named Kyle, and keeping it for years, hoping that eventually he'll forget that it even belongs to him. Last up today, I want to show you my very favorite game in the whole wide world, and that is Splendor. Splendor is a game about collecting gems. You use little tokens to get cards, and the cards are like permanent tokens, which then allow you to buy more fancier cards, until eventually everything seems free because you have so many gems in front of you. The fascinating thing about Splendor for me is I don't even really care about the gem collecting theme. I'm not a huge fan of the art, though it's perfectly good, and I don't really like the fact that I don't get to roll any dice whatsoever. But in spite of all of those things, Splendor is my all-time favorite game because it's never quite the same each time you play, and the people you play with dramatically affect the experience. I have a friend named Andy who I will never beat in my whole life, even if he is asleep at the time. He'll still somehow manage to win, but I'll still play every time somebody brings it out. So there you have it, a handful of board games selected for you, the person who has not played any board games besides, say, Scrabble or Operation. Now, there are many others that I would recommend, but for now, start with the basics. Give those a whirl and see what you think. It may take a few times to get used to a board game that is more complex than what you're used to, but I promise that it is worth the effort. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, so I've now been introduced to a new realm of board games, but what if, after I'm done playing these amazing games, I want to bake delicious treats which are in the shape of the game that I just played? I know, it's a natural thing to wonder about. Well, I have good news for you. My friend Danielle has a YouTube channel called Board Game Bakes. You can find the link in the description below, or just type Board Game Bakes into the YouTube search bar. And it's filled with amazing feats of bakery and confectionaryism. It's amazing stuff, and you should totally check it out, which you can do right now because, well, this video is over for the day. I will see you next time. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to learn Root, a game that I have played now several times and still don't really understand what the heck is going on. It's got a tutorial that tells you exactly what to do and still no idea what's happening. Some board games are just very complicated. See you next time. I can't really talk with my hands while there are so many board games in front of me. That's hard for me because I like talking with my hands.